Who here uses open source? This is a great Halloween talk. If this does not scare you, then nothing will. So I'm here to talk to you about security. I do a lot with it. I've done a lot in my career. I'm privileged to be here. And I want to talk to you today about your open source program and how you should be managing it. Anybody here give me a bill of materials for the application that they ship? Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's why Equifax, right? They didn't know. They had no idea. So if you take a look at those breaches, largest breach in history that affected me, who else did it affect? Yeah, exactly. Isn't that great? We use a lot of it. You look at applications today, 90 to 95% are open source. We stitch together with some magic stuff that does what we need it to do. And then we ship it. So a 75 mega application might only have 1 or 200K. We're consuming it at a rapid rate, and it's growing at a rapid rate. If you take a look at these numbers, 10,000 new releases of open source a day, new projects coming online all the time. How do you keep up with that? And what happens as a result of that? Were these built with security in mind? I doubt it. We had to talk about Docker Hub. Again, this is a place where we are consuming this at a rapid rate. Where are you taking those images from? What's in it? Do you know what is part of the applications that you're shipping and putting on the outside of your networks? It's not more or less secure. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we take it, we integrate it, and then we abandon it. We never think about it again. And that has a lot of bad results downstream, especially when a vulnerability shows up. So take a look at this. Vast majority of applications have open source in them, a large number of them, and most of them are vulnerable, and we've known about them for a long time. 4 years is the average length of time that a vulnerability has existed. So let's talk about the simplicity. I asked everyone in the room, do you use struts or not? You would know, definitely, yes or no. That's a pretty easy question. So when the struts vulnerability came out, you said, oh yeah, that we might be vulnerable, I can go look into that. But let's take a look at the flip side of that. What about Apache Commons Collection 3.2.1? Anyone know? I do. Take a look at the spread here. Extremely vulnerable, and we don't know it's there because it's been baked into all of the things that we use. In just 5 generations of that component, it's used in 80,000 other components. You bring those in, you integrate them, and then you forget about it. So a CVE comes out against ACC, and you're like, I don't know. And then you get breached. So take a look at this list. This is the top vulnerable components that we saw in our State of Software Security report. Most of them you don't recognize because you just use them. They're part and baked into the stuff that you build in your applications. And they have extreme vulnerabilities. To fix this stuff, we got to start with accountability. I talk most about this. It's not about tools, it's about people. You have to be accountable for the software that you write. You want to do that for yourself. So you have to think about that accountability. And it has to be shared and measured and part of our goals. Now, part of this is for security people or application people. You got to build that list of applications. That requires a lot of digging. You don't have the list. Some of the stuff isn't being worked on. It's still on our production sites. Where do I get that from? And keep some metadata because you're going to want to get back in touch with these teams. A clear, concise security plan about what you will accept and what you won't. And by the way, drift. This is horrible. When you look at some of these vulnerabilities and you abandon it, 10 years later, you might say, oh, there's a vulnerability. Well, it's going to take me man years to get there. Security champions are something that's come up recently, talking about individuals on the team being responsible for keeping that bill of materials, building it, and then be part of your incident response team when these CVEs are announced. We want to find it as early as possible. So you see static analysis, the day I start coding is the day I start looking. When I have a system that's up and running, I want to take a look at it dynamically. After it's in production, I still need to make sure that we don't have vulnerabilities against this. I need to understand for each application, how long is it going to take me to change it, test it, and then deploy it. This MTTR is critical, especially if you're assessing how much risk are we taking by not patching it today. How long is it going to take? Worse if you're a vendor. Open source is easy. We'll patch forward at the head. They don't go back and patch the old versions. If you sell software to somebody else, they're not going to move. You're going to have to go back and patch. How many? How fast? How do you communicate with them? How do you test it? You have to monitor for these things. They're called common vulnerability enumerations. You got to understand whether it impacts your application or not, and then figure out what you're going to do about it, right? How long is it going to take me to fix it? How am I going to prove it's fixed? And then we move on. You are shipping in secure code now. You just don't know it. If you can't tell me the bill of materials for your software, your company could be breached. So don't end up in the news. Start an open source security program. I'd love to do an open space on this if you guys are interested. Thank you very much.